In Chapter 1 of our Trans-canal cruise, we visited Acapulco, the Panama Canal, and Cartagena, Colombia. Our ship, the Island Princess, is now slowly approaching the Isle of Aruba at the harbor of the city of Oranjestad. Many fine white sand beaches extend for 7 miles along the west shoreline of the island. Oranjestad boasts only 2,000 inhabitants, but it has some very stylish shops displaying crystal, china, linens, jewelry, cameras, watches, and high fashions to tempt tourists who are looking for bargains. Thank goodness the bus driver didn't stop to let Dorothy get involved in these never-to-be-repeated opportunities. As we move out of town through the residential district, we learn that this 19-mile-long by 6-mile-wide island has very little rainfall. Despite this fact, some areas near the west coast are quite heavily forested with scrub trees and shrubberies. But as we move across to the windward Caribbean side of the island, the soil becomes a less fertile coral composition where cacti and other desert plants do very well. Devi trees always point to the southwest, away from the trade winds that continually sweep the island. Communities appear from time to time. Near the Caribbean side of the island, the country seems virtually lifeless. The continual northeasterly winds blowing from the sea to the land whip the Caribbean into turbulent oncoming waves that constantly pound the shoreline. Incessant wave action has created this natural bridge. Back on the highway, as we pass other settlements, the 617-foot-high Yamanota Hill, the highest point on the island, dominates the skyline. Tourism is important to the economy of Aruba. It, together with a large oil refinery operation employing 10,000 workers, provide the natives with the highest standard of living in the Caribbean area. The population of the island is predominantly Roman Catholic in religious faith. Modern buildings attest to a thriving economy. northeasterly trade winds, the mild year-round 75 to 85 degree temperatures, and the excellent beaches make this island an ideal recreation attraction. We are now sailing toward the French island of Martinique. The reddening sky signals the beginning of the second day at sea. The ship's navigation plan indicates that we will reach the harbor of Fort-de-France at 8 o'clock this morning. Martinique, Isle of Flowers, is one of the largest islands in the Lesser Antilles. It is 50 miles long by 19 miles wide. Since its beaches equal those of Nice, France, it is known as the Riviera of the New World. The water is clear and inviting. Temperatures are usually in the high 80s, and rain showers are normally quite brief in duration. 325,000 French citizens call this island home. They are a friendly people. A ship's officer is guiding our vessel toward port while watching for the harbor patrol official who will clear us to visit the island. Martinique is one of the most alluring spots in the West Indies. Sailing is a popular recreational pastime. Another tourist cruiser, the Fairsea, is also entering the harbor. The island has commercial docks for the exchange of goods with the outside world. Its main export products are coconuts, bananas, and pineapples. Fort-de-France is a city of 100,000 souls. It offers many luxury imports at prices below those of Paris, New York, or St. Thomas Island. Shops feature wide selections of Madras cottons, watches, silver, and crystal. In the distance is 4,700-foot-high Mount Pelee, which erupted in 1902, annihilating all but one of the 42,000 residents of St. Pierre. Today, St. Pierre's population is 6,200. Our University of Chicago graduate guide begins and ends every sentence with, "I tell you, ladies and gentlemen." During a short rest stop, we have time to look around at the adjacent shoreline. Martinique is noted for its beautiful flowers and luscious plants which grow in abundance everywhere. Much of the island is composed of rolling, tree-clothed mountains having peaks reaching to a maximum of 4,250 feet above sea level. The Basilica of the Sacred Heart, built in 1928, is one of many Catholic churches on the island. We return through more lush countryside to the city of Fort-de-France to reboard the Island Princess. Part of the old fort that once protected the city still stands near the dock. While our ship is preparing to leave the harbor, we spend... Other tourist cruise liners are already resting at anchor. The United States government in 1917 paid $25 million to the Dutch for 28 square miles St. Thomas Island. Its 40,000 inhabitants were granted U.S. citizenship 10 years later. However, they have no voting rights because of the island's territorial rather than statehood status. St. Thomas is a favorite island for vacationers because of its powdery white sand beaches, its clear, sparkling waters, and its gentle breezes. Charlotte Amalie is the capital and the only city on the island. The island is subsidized by the government and its inhabitants pay no taxes, which makes for a very healthy local economy. Special customs provisions here allow $800 per person duty-free purchases to be brought into the continental United States, thus further helping the island's economy. There are great bargains here in liquors, china, crystal, Swiss watches, and wearing apparel. A 1.5-ton flatbed Ford truck of somewhat antique vintage with open sides and back constitutes the principal means of mass transit around the island. Narrow, poorly maintained roads, coupled with 40 miles an hour speeds, give a breezy, bone-shaking 10-mile ride through the tropical countryside to the Red Hook Dock. We finally arrive at Red Hook, where we will take a 4-mile ferry ride to St. John's Island. St. John's Island is 20 square miles. Stone mills were used to produce sugar for export to Europe and America. African slaves were the source of labor for the sugar barons. However, the slaves were freed in 1848 at the same time world sugar prices sagged due to overproduction. As a result, the sugar mills on St. John's Island were dismantled and the plantations abandoned. In this tropical climate, the plantations quickly reverted back to the jungle from which they were carved in the first place. Apparently, one of our tour group has heard enough. Rum is free at the Francis Bay Beach. Loose white sand, warm sunshine, and clear blue waters entice people to don bathing suits and come to the beach, either to swim, to merely look at the water, or to parade their sun-baked bodies before the rest of the world. We have thoroughly enjoyed our visits to the islands of Aruba, Martinique, St. Thomas, and St. John. However, it is now time to reboard the Island Princess for an overnight passage to Puerto Rico in Chapter 3 of our Trans-canal cruise.